got the open going and everything. Yep, here we are. It's Friday night, and we are waiting on another winter storm to make its way to northern Ohio. But so far, it's been so good. I mean, we are looking at a beautiful evening. Temperatures are in the upper 20s, perfectly on par for this time of the year. We have a lot of cloud cover around, and note that it's not for another few hours that snow starts to enter into the forecast picture. So we do have a winter weather advisory that is in effect for all of northern Ohio through the night tonight and through a good chunk of the day tomorrow. And we want to keep everybody updated with how this is all going to roll out. So I have my iPad here. I'm going to try and figure out a way to share this feed over to my page and then come back and hopefully keep an eye on comments and all that stuff. So be kind and be gentle. But for the most part, here we go. All right. What matters most? This is the highlights that you need to know about how this is going to roll out as we go through the weekend. Overnight, the snow moves in. It's probably going to be moving in after midnight. We'll see an uptick in snow intensity. We'll start with fluff, and then we'll start to see those snow crystals really becoming a little bit more impressive just about the time that the snow intensities ramp up. Then, as we get into the early part of the day tomorrow, meaning pre-dawn, we'll start to see some warmer air moving in aloft. That changes things. That means the snow crystals may melt before they hit the ground, but in the early part of this, they're going to refreeze, so that's called sleet. And then as the melting continues and the warming at different layers continues, we're going to end up with a period of freezing rain. All of that mess will turn into just plain old rain as the temperatures at the surface warm up, and we'll continue with the rain showers until we get into the evening. Once we hit probably mid to late evening, maybe 9, 10 o'clock or so, depends on which model you use, the temperatures are going to drop, and that's going to take the rain, change it back to snow, and then on Sunday we are looking at lake snow and cold. Obviously, the thing that is getting the most attention is tomorrow morning when that snow changes to sleet and then especially freezing rain. For whatever reason, people really freak out about freezing rain. That glazing of ice, and we do have the possibility of a glazing of ice, is a very scary thing for a lot of people. They don't want to mess with it, and it's probably a good thing that it's happening on a Saturday morning. So there it is. As we go ahead, I'm going to just share this to my page. Stand by. I apologize. I will make sure I hit as many people as I can with this. But as you can see here, we have quite an impressive storm system that is going on across the Midwest and now into the Great Lakes. We have the upper level storm system up here. This is the cold core storm system. And then we have a phenomenal moisture feed that is coming out of, believe it or not, the Pacific Ocean. So we kind of have two different zones of this storm, and we are riding right into the middle. So we are kind of under the influence of the power, the energy from the northern part of the storm, but we're getting a lot of moisture feed from the southern part, the warmer part. The really cool thing in all of this is that the entire storm system is beginning to phase. It's coming together. It's becoming more organized. When it becomes more organized, it strengthens. And as it strengthens, what is going to end up happening is we're going to have a lot more heat transfer, moisture transport, and not only that, the wind speeds are going to be picking up overall. So this is a great storm system to look at from a little bit more technical perspective. We're going to hit some of the highlights of all of that. That being said, blizzard warnings here in the eastern Dakotas and western portions of Minnesota. This is a big winter storm warning. This is where they're expecting some pretty intense amounts of snow. And then we get into this area here with this light blue. That is the winter weather advisory. That includes us here in northeast Ohio. And again, it kicked off, or it will kick off at 9 o'clock. It goes overnight and through much of the day tomorrow, depending upon where you are. 3 p.m. seems to be the most likely time for that to come down, if not before. But this just basically means it's going to be very inconvenient. This weather will inconvenience you. A warning would kick it up to very dangerous conditions. And so we're kind of riding the line of that right now. There's certain criteria you have to hit. We're not hitting that criteria for the warning. So we end up staying with the advisory. And that advisory, again, will go through most of the day tomorrow. Oh, Betsy Kling, hush. Sorry. See, there you go. I sound like I'm smart, and I'm not. I can't. How do you get this thing off? There it goes. Ah! Okay, thank you. We do not have any snow falling as of yet, but we do have a pronounced easterly wind. Remember, the wind always blows toward low pressure. Low pressure is the storm system. It's west of us. We have an east wind. Now, the temperatures. Check it out. We're in the low 20s east, mid and upper 20s farther to the west. Keep in mind, this cold is putting the chill on everything. It's like there's a refrigerator sitting over the surface of northeast Ohio. So the ground is being chilled, the roads are being chilled, your steps, decks, porches, anything like that, all being chilled right now. And that's what sets us up for this glazing of ice through the day tomorrow. As we take a look at the bigger pictures on the bigger temperatures on the bigger scale, very intense cold air off to the northeast. So that's why we're continuing to kind of keep that cold air coming in on the easterly winds. Meanwhile, the temperatures are still below freezing throughout most of the areas north of the Ohio River. Keep in mind, though, the warm air at the surface is down here. But if I put this on, this is the dividing line at 5,000 feet where the freezing temperatures are. Anything north of this line, the temperature at 5,000 feet is below freezing, 0 Celsius. Anything south of this line, the temperature is above freezing at 5,000 feet. Now, that could blow your mind a little bit, but here's why that's important. Above freezing will melt those ice crystals. And so what you end up getting when you see a map like this with a very cold surface throughout here and a warm layer aloft, you end up with this. What a mess, right? So we're below freezing throughout the vertical column of the atmosphere, all in these areas. That's why they're getting snow, and they are getting some pretty intense snow. That matter of fact, I've been seeing some folks on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram who've been sending out pictures. They're sitting on the tarmac at O'Hare Airport. The snow came down a lot faster than they thought. They couldn't keep up with the runway, so now there's delays at O'Hare Airport, and people are sitting on planes for a couple of hours. That's not good. But then farther to the south, you get the purple and then the salmon color. The purple is your sleet, the salmon is your freezing rain, and look at that swath of freezing rain, all right? Remember, those temperatures here are still below freezing. We're in this darker blue color, but once you add in that warm layer aloft, that's where the mix takes place. So you kind of have to get an idea of how things are stacked up atmospherically. When the storm system deepens, remember when it strengthens, it's going to pull that wind field in. When it pulls the wind field in, warm air rises, so you get this kind of upglide of the air, and that kind of helps just to feed this in. Finally, the air gets cold enough that it's going to stay all snow. But the entirety of the storm system itself is moving to the northeast. So basically, it's just going to drag this nasty mix our way, and that's what we have set up for tomorrow. How do we know this is going on? Well, this is where you can kind of break it down a little bit. I love SKU-T log P diagrams, okay? These scare the heck out of a lot of meteorologists. There's just so much information, and if you misread it, it gets a little hairy. But this is a vertical mathematical representation of the atmosphere. The green line is your dew point. The red line is your temperature, your air temperature. And as you can see, the air temperatures get colder as you get higher in the atmosphere. That's nothing unusual. But to get into the details, you have to zoom in a little bit. So let's zoom in. This is well, gosh, I think this is, hold on, let's do this. Let me back it up because I need to, there it is, 12Z tomorrow morning. So 12Z, that's 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then this one is 15Z, so that's 10 a.m. So we're going to compare 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with the SKU-T log P diagram. All right, now we can zoom in. All right, so you can see here our surface temperature, this little one, that's 31 degrees. It's a 28-degree dew point. We got a lot of moisture. It's going to be saturated. The red and the green lines are pretty much together. The most important line that I want you to see is right here. It's this little dashed line. That is the freezing line. So basically, if we're looking at a cross-section of the atmosphere, because this is going right and left, you have below freezing surface. It goes up, there's a little warm slice at about, I don't know, maybe 1,000 feet or so. And then you go a little bit higher, and look at how this line goes just to the right of the 0-degree isotherm. That is a huge deal. That's your melting layer. So basically what's happening is you get snowflakes coming down. They get this little layer above freezing, and those snowflakes melt, and then they hit back below freezing, and they refreeze. That's sleet. So this is where you start to put your meteorology into the forecast. We start with snow because we know everything above us is cold right now. But once that warm layer starts to nose in here, there you see it. This is where we're going to get that sleet changeover. Again, that is 7 a.m. This is a pretty classic sounding, not the best ever, but it's pretty classic. And I wouldn't be surprised if at this point we have kind of a snow-sleet mix, especially in some of the heavier showers that are coming through. All right, so let's fast forward to 10 a.m. in the vertical representation of the atmosphere, and you can see it is a very different looking line, right? We are still right at or below freezing. This is 32 degrees, 31-degree dew point. It gets cold as you go up, but then look at the warm air. Look how much time vertically in the atmosphere all these little snowflakes come down and then they melt. They will melt completely, and they don't have time to refreeze before they hit the ground. The ground is frozen because we're sitting in the 20s right now. So this is a perfect freezing rain example that we will have tomorrow morning. Again, that's at 10 a.m. Depending on the model, the intensity and the timing can change. And so honestly, there's like maybe 10 models that everybody is using all at the same time to try and figure out this time and down to 5 minutes and over here and over there. Don't worry about it. Look, here's the deal. You kind of have to take this in chunks because no matter what we say right now, it's going to change as we go through the night. So you take a look at the big picture here once again, and it is absolutely so impressive, right? When you start to get those little details put in there, now you have to understand every point on this map has those little details going on, and you can kind of start to process how incredible our atmosphere is. Let me try and see if I can hop back over to our page here and pull this up. All right, let's talk about this. We are going to say that it is January out there, believe it or not. I know a lot of people probably don't believe me, but keep in mind, this is another really cool part of the storm system. So we just talked about how the warm layer aloft makes a difference in the precipitation type. Well, remember, this whole storm system is deepening and it's strengthening, and that has a big stirring mechanism in the atmosphere. What it's going to stir up? Surface temperatures. So that warm air is being transported northward right now, and there you see it. These are your surface temperatures, but then look how this cold air comes in. That is the leading edge of cold air that will be with us for a few days. We are talking about, we are talking about warmer temperatures to start the day tomorrow, and then things get really chilly once we get into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Here is a look then. Let's dive into your forecast just a little bit. We'll go hour by hour. This is the HER model for all of my fellow weather weenies out there who are curious. This thing, here we go again. Come on now. Get out of here. I'm just going to bail out of that. So the HER model is a rapid high-res update model. Sometimes it can be a little quirky. Don't always use it, but I think it gives a pretty good representation of what's going on. It brings some snow in early. Now, I'm going to forgive it of this, but watch what happens as we get into the overnight. Now we get the more impressive snow coming in. By about 2 a.m., we should have a pretty good belt of snow that comes down. Now, this is most likely to be the fluffy, pretty snowflake snow that will add up. More importantly, look at these surface temperatures. We are still in the mid and upper 20s. This is absolutely so critical to the freezing rain part of this whole mess that we have going on. So we'll have snow that falls. That kind of insulates the ground, locks things in. We'll probably get anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of snow out of the overnight hours. So it's coming down at a pretty good clip. If you have to, well, let's put it this way, because there's people who are actually going to be going home at 2 a.m. You know who you are. Just be careful, because it could be really nasty on the roads with that snow coming through. If you have people, your people who are out and about at 2 a.m. and will be coming home, make sure you call them and let them know. It could be really nasty about that time. We'll continue to see the snow as we go through the early morning pre-dawn hours. And by about 6 a.m., now we've got this snow that's coming down. Temperatures have warmed up to 30 degrees. Surface temperatures have warmed up to 30 degrees. And we're starting to get some hints that we could get some sleet mixing in at about this time. I kind of ballparked it at 5 a.m. to noon in the 6 o'clock newscast this evening as to when this is all going to take place, mixing. Mostly because your location will vary greatly from other locations most likely out of this. So let's just say that we'll probably start to see the sleet mixing in at about 6 a.m. That cuts down on the snow totals. If the sleet doesn't get here in time, we'll probably see a little bit more snow. If the sleet gets here early, we'll see a little bit less snow. So that's why we kind of put a range on it, 1 to 3. We may have some areas that get 4 inches of snow. If that's going to happen, I would say higher terrain areas out to the east have the best chance of that as of right now. And then also possibly maybe portions of Huron County and southern Lorain County, northern Ashland County, northern Richland County. You folks are going to be kind of like riding the line. All right, anyway, here we go, off to 8, 9 a.m. And our surface temperatures are right around freezing. Remember our vertical profile. Now that warm air is moving in. We have a sleet snow mix that's coming down at 9 a.m., but now we really start to see more and more indications of freezing rain. Remember the temperatures now and through the early morning are only in the 20s. That is refrigerating everything. It's going to take a couple minutes, right, for surfaces to come back above freezing. It's like when you take the your frozen turkey out of the freezer. You put it on the table, the counter. It takes a while for it to thaw. It's going to take a while for our surfaces to thaw. So that's why we kind of have this little prolonged window of freezing rain that goes through 9 a.m. through 10 a.m. And by the time we hit about 11 or 12, now our temperatures are in the mid 30s. That should be enough to thaw everything. As that is taking place, we have heavy rain moving in. It just gets better. This is such a great storm system to follow meteorologically. It won't be fun tomorrow morning, but it will be great to follow because as this heavier rain is coming down, remember we've had 1 to 3 inches of snow. So this is going to create slush. Your favorite thing in the world. So remember, if the road crews have not been able to get out, get everything salted, we will have very slushy roads by about this time. Now, here's the best news of all. Mid-afternoon, we'll get a big surge of warm air. Look at this, 2 p.m. We're still in the mid-30s east, but look at the low 40s now punching in here, and we'll probably even go mid-40s at some point in the afternoon. And then things start to turn as we go later in the night. But we're kind of focusing in on the morning here. So what is most important out of this? 1 to 3 inches of snow is coming tonight. If the sleet gets here early, we'll have less snow. If the sleet gets here late, we'll have more snow. That snow and the sleet will eventually change over to freezing rain. The freezing rain is what will get most people's attention. You may see this. This is a glazing. That's a pretty good example. It's a pretty hard example. It's a hefty amount of glazing. I don't think we'll have that much. But we're also going to experience very windy conditions. Glazing and wind doesn't typically go so well. So we may have some power outages that we have to deal with. But then that mix through the morning will change to rain for the afternoon. We'll continue with on-off rain showers through the rest of the afternoon into the evening, and then probably late evening into the overnight is when the temperatures will finally cool down, not just at the surface, but aloft too. Everything chills as Arctic air arrives, and that will change it all back over to snow. So tomorrow's forecast, we will start off with temperatures flirting with freezing. That rain-snow mix is going to not really be such a rain-snow mix. It's snow to sleet to freezing rain to rain, and that's all going to happen in the span of just a few hours in the morning. The good news is I don't think the freezing rain is going to stick around long enough to really cause a lot of problems. But that being said, we're watching for any changes. By afternoon, temperatures get into the 40s, and we should be pretty scot-free after that as far as those scattered rain showers continue. But then tomorrow night is when the temperatures take a dive once again, and we're going to end up finding the mercury falling and the snow possibly adding up. So what a storm system, right? It should be pretty interesting as we go through the day tomorrow. And I can't help but tell everybody once again that this does look like it's going to be having an inconvenient punch for us, unfortunately. It will be inconvenient. We'll have some slick roads. We'll have some tricky spots, especially your decks and porches and anything untreated. But we've been through this before. You know how to deal with this stuff. So just use your head. I know. I sound like a mom. I'm sorry. Anywho, all right, I got to go get ready for the 11 o'clock. We're going to have What's Next on What's Next. Hi, clever. And then we'll keep you updated. Jason Fraser is in the morning. He's coming in very early to get a start on all of everything for you for the morning show that kicks off tomorrow. And he'll have the latest with you starting at, I think, 5 a.m. Don't they start at 5 a.m. or so? Anywho, all right, we'll have the latest on that on What's Next. See ya. A lot of problems. But that being said, we'll tell everybody once again that this does look like it's going to be